I've been watching it for 40 years.
Are you kidding me?
You're listening to Winning Cures Everything.
Game day, baby. Wake up or get out.
Here's your host,
a confident young man, a superb athlete,
Gary Seegers.
Welcome in, Winning Cures Everything. It's the Week 10 college football reaction and recap show. I'm your host, Gary Seegers. Of course, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at GaryWCE. And of course, I am on Twitter at Winning Cures. That is the show's Twitter page. I am legit going to go an entire football season without my actual at GaryWCE Twitter handle because I cannot get them to respond to me about this stupid suspension. But regardless, we're here. We're ready to rock and roll. The guy that's on the right side of the screen, of course, Matt Huey. Matt, tell them about yourself. Tell them where they can find you. It's good to have you back this week, my friend.
Yes. Glad to be back. Yes. I am Matt, physical therapist. Find me on all social media. Strong and Healthy Rehab is me, or the other one where I'm just a goofball, Matt_PT_dip_MDT.
I see Mike Mack jumped in the chat already. He said, I'm just here for the theme music. Yeah, cheers to that. That theme music is so that's just something I threw together over my old band's one of their tunes, right? So Persevere music, you can find it on Spotify if you want to do that. Douglas
that's Persevere?
Yeah, that's Persevere. Yeah. Let's see. French of Virginia said, first time watching live. I hope you talk about New Mexico State. We'll probably hit on them. Yes. And Douglas, quack and double quack quack. Go Ducks. Hey, cheers to Oregon. Looked pretty good yesterday. Looked pretty good. As always, if you want to support the show, now you can become a member on YouTube. I don't know fully how all that stuff works. I'm looking into it. I'm figuring it out, but it's like $3 if you want to support the cause. You can do that. Or you can go over to buymeacoffee.com/winningcures and do that as well. If you want to follow my plays during the week, Telegram is the way to do it. I'm Gary WCE on Telegram. I think you can go to your phone browser, t.me/GaryWCE. Matt, we have got a lot to dive into today.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and start off. Of course, week 10 was bonkers, bananas. I want to start with this. Nebraska. I talked about the Sun Belt already, right? I think you and I talked before we went live. Mm-hmm. The Sun Belt is trying to kill me. Like, they are legit trying to kill me. Georgia State and Georgia Southern, I am so tired. And it's not just them. That whole conference is just off the book. The only two things in that conference that are reliable are James Madison and Troy. And that's it. Everything else is a coin flip, and it doesn't matter what the numbers say or what trends are. Nothing matters other than those two teams. And one of them, James Madison, who's undefeated, can't even play for the damn conference title. So, is what it is. I'm out on the Sun Belt. Second, Matt Rule. Nebraska goes to East Lansing, and that is just a shell of a team. Interim coach, I know that they were at home, but Nebraska, 3 turnovers in a game that you really had to have to get to a bowl game. Very irritating. A 3-point favorite on the road for Nebraska after you just whipped up on Purdue, who is a better team than Michigan State right now, and you're going to turn around and commit 3 turnovers and lose the game by 3. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Not a fan. Let's start off with our weekly Heisman. We do this every single week. We talk about the big performers of the week and, who we would choose to award our Heisman to that week, not just the whole season. Matt, let you go ahead and start off with this. I want to see if you picked the guy that I left off my list so that you would take him.
I had one thing. I do really believe this. We need to have let the possum play the other night. The Texas Tech game, drug off the field.
Seen the memes, like thinking that it's Connor Stallions, the
big ass possum, big ass possum. Let's let the possum play. Let him play. Let him play.
Who are you taking in your Heisman besides the possum?
I looked a little bit out there. I think I'm going to go with Jacob Zeno.
Okay.
With UAB.
Yeah.
29-35, 484 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, 10 yards rushing. But I'd say a very interesting one. I'll bring this up. Quarterback, Army.
Yeah, Bryson
50
Daly.
yards passing, 170 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns. And he rushed for a 62-yard touchdown. Or excuse me,
Destroyed.
his longest was for 62.
Oh, that was if you were rooting for Air Force to make it to a New Year's Six bowl, that game just destroyed you. If you weren't, then hey, cheers. That's what Service Academy football is. Air Force turned the ball over 6 times. I mean, that's just ridiculous. You didn't take the one that I thought you were going to take, and that's your boy Dylan Johnson, who transferred from Mississippi State. I
had him on there.
Yeah, hey, he had more yards rushing last night than I think he did in all those years playing for Mike Leach. Like,
yes, yes.
I think, God, see if I remember this right. He had 199 yards before contact. That means the offensive line is doing it. Like they were awesome. And so yeah, Dylan Johnson had like 240 some odd yards, a couple of touchdowns. Like he was awesome for the Washington Huskies. My guys. Go ahead. Who did you have?
So I was going to say my offensive line, Heisman. Okay, where was Dylan Johnson running getting those touchdowns? The left side of it. Troy Finn. I'm gonna say his name. Fantino, whatever. Dude was just
awesome.
tearing it up. Even lost his helmet on a play. Kept going. I know he got at least 2 touchdowns running over that left side. Didn't give up a sack. So he's my Heisman offensive lineman.
Cheers to the Heisman offensive lineman. I can get down with that. I had 2 guys on my list. And since we were already talking Service Academies, I'll go with the G5 guy first. Temple quarterback E.J. Warner came back into action. He's been out for a couple of weeks. Temple's offense is atrocious with him not in the game. Quincy Patterson, I think, is the quarterback there. Transferred in from, I think, North Dakota State. He does not have that offense does not run the same with him as it does with E.J. Warner. E.J. Warner slings it around against Navy yesterday. 27 out of 33, 402 yards, 4 touchdowns. He did have 2 picks, but Temple handled Navy at home yesterday. So that was a big-time spot for E.J. Warner, of course, Kurt Warner's son. Clemson running back Phil Maffa is my other guy. And it's not so much like the efficiency numbers and whatever. Will Shipley being out was a pretty big deal for this game. Man, Phil Maffa had 36 carries for 186 yards and 2 touchdowns against Notre Dame's defense. I mean, absolutely just ran all over him. And we could talk about Clemson's offensive line if we want to. They had some dudes down and were still able to get some push on the ground. But Maffa was a big part of that. Man, he was taking dudes with him down the field. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, my 2, Temple quarterback E.J. Warner and Clemson running back Phil Maffa. Those guys were awesome yesterday. That Clemson Notre Dame game, I don't have it on our list of like deep dives. Well, you had to see that coming, right? Mm-hmm. I believe Circa out in Vegas, if I remember correctly, Circa was taking like 4-1 the amount of tickets on Notre Dame that they were getting on Clemson. And I get it because Clemson lost 2 straight games and all that, but like that was still not a bad team. And you saw it yesterday. Like they whipped up on Notre Dame, especially early, and then held on late. Did you get to see much of that game?
I watched a little bit of it and I was like, holy cow. Like, yeah. Such high hopes for Notre Dame. And it's just like, it's just tumbling away. And then somebody texts me and they go, Notre Dame just sucks. I'm like, well,
Notre Dame fans are ready to hire Sean Lewis.
Yeah.
Like Colorado demoted him. And now they're like, hey, you think you can come over here and run like that veer and shoot stuff? Like you think you can maybe do some of that stuff over here? It's like, the offense was, if they ran one more screen pass on like 3rd and long or ran Estime on like 3rd and medium again, it's like, could y'all come up with something that's not predictable? Like, I don't even watch the team that much, and I knew exactly what they were going to play. Like I knew what they were going to do. So if I know what they're going to do, my God, Clemson knows.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh, irritating. Very irritating if you are an Irish fan. Let's move over to our CFP top 4 right quick. And Matt, do you want to start us off here?
Yep. I don't think mine's changed much. Still got Michigan number 1.
I think we're at a spot, right, where like we're just we're waiting on one of these teams to lose or somebody to beat somebody, a little bigger. Like I think we're just kind of in a standstill spot right now.
Yeah. It just feels like, okay, we're going to start weeding teams out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. So Michigan is one for you.
Oh yeah, because they just show up and just do the work. I mean, yeah, whatever, they're stealing signs or whatever, but they're still doing the work. Whip them. Still got to do the work. And I'm actually a little excited because people are saying Harbaugh to the Bears. So keep stealing the signs. Let them get out of here.
You are a Bears fan.
Yes, right on over to the Bears.
Well, who the Bears president is, and that's the former Big Ten commissioner Kevin Warren. I don't believe that their relationship is great, so I don't know that that's going to happen. But who knows? I mean, if you're just trying to win games, few can do it as well as Harbaugh.
Yeah.
So all right, so Michigan's 1. I've got Georgia 1 on mine. I'm bumped them up. The resume is starting to look a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And they show up when they need to. Like that's a big part of it. Michigan, like I've got them down at 3. I've got Ohio State 2 right now, because Michigan continues to do the same thing. And yes, they're dominant, and yes, they're killing teams and whatnot. My opinion on it has changed a little bit because the wins that they've got are just looking worse and worse. And until I see them against Penn State, I'm going to have them at 3. Like I might bump them up to 1 after next weekend if they just come out and throttle Penn State. But for now, that's where I've got them. Who you got 2 and 3 on this? So
Georgia and then FSU. Like you said, Georgia is showing up now. Now it's like, oh, okay,
okay, it's time to flip the switch. Let's go.
Okay, yeah, you're not screwing around with teams. You're sticking to it. Like watching was yesterday with Missouri.
Yeah.
Think okay, and then Florida State and who did they play? I'm blanking. I watched the game and I am
Pitt yesterday.
Pitt, yes,
but they had Keon Coleman out and they had Johnny Wilson out. Like they were just going through the motions.
Yeah,
do what you got to do to get a win. But
yeah,
until the ACC championship, they don't really they're not worried about anything. Like they've got Miami this week, so that was a look ahead spot yesterday. We'll see.
Yeah.
So Florida State 3. I'm going to assume you have Ohio State 4, or did you bump Washington up?
Washington.
Oh yeah.
I don't like the fact when you have 2 teams from the same conference who are going to play each other in the top 4. It's like, no, you cannot do that because one of the teams is going to knock the other one out. Now, granted, Ohio State doesn't seem like they're the same team early in the season when they were just like, oh, it just kind of took them a little while to get going. Now they're like, hey, like George, we woke up, we're playing really well. I'm still thinking that Michigan is just going to be really ticked off. We won our shot. We're tired of hearing about them. So that's kind of how I'm viewing it. But I think Washington and now my team on the outside, Ohio State and Oregon.
So I've got Florida State 4, I've got Washington 5, and then I've got Oregon 6. And I think that this is breaking down it past the top 4. I think it's almost exactly that, right? I think, Washington has to be ranked ahead of Oregon because they beat them. Like I think Oregon has looked a lot better, but in that one game, Oregon missed that field goal, game over. You get to 7. I think you got to have Texas ranked above Alabama, right? Mm-hmm. So Texas got to be 7, Alabama's got to be 8. Well, then Ole Miss is up there. They've only got 1 loss. It's to Alabama, so you can't rank them ahead of Alabama. So Alabama got to be 8, Ole Miss has got to be 9, and then you got Penn State, who until yesterday, you saw nothing from the offense that gave you any kind of belief that they'd be able to win games against teams like Michigan and whatnot. But now I've got Penn State at 10. So I think a lot will change this coming weekend. Ole Miss going to Georgia. Bama gets Kentucky at home. Texas, I don't even remember who Texas is playing this week. But I'll be able to tell that here in just a minute. I do know Penn State and Michigan play, and that will be, we will figure that out. We won't have to worry about that. Texas plays at TCU on Saturday. Have they announced the time for this? I am so tired of these 6-day windows. Like, you notice that? Like, there's some weeks where it's done way ahead of time.
Yeah.
Nope, still to be determined. We'll know this afternoon, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I will say where I am, everybody's going to be going nuts for that. It's going to be burnt orange and purple.
Yep. It's going to be gross.
Everywhere.
It's going to be gross. Oregon gets USC. Does USC get off the mat? We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But yeah, so that's our top 10. Let's go on and jump into the games. You ready to do that?
Oh yeah.
All right. We'll start off, of course, the final SEC on CBS doubleheader, the prime time CBS SEC game was, of course, Alabama 42, LSU 28. And let me change this around right quick so that, there we go. Bump that and pull it up. Okay. This was a fun game until fourth quarter. Really? Alabama goes up by 2 touchdowns, and then that was kind of all she wrote. I want to pull up first off, the numbers were eerie, right? Everybody talked about how good Jaden Daniels is and all this. Jaden Daniels, 15 out of 24, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception passing, and he ran the ball 11 times for 163 yards. Jalen Milroe, 15 of 23 passing for 219 yards, exact same yardage. No touchdowns, no interceptions, but he ran the ball 20 times for 155 yards, 4 touchdowns. These 2 quarterbacks were in their bag, absolutely doing whatever they wanted to. And the real difference in the game was the turnover from LSU. They went a certain length with not getting stopped at all. LSU did. And in the second half, even with Jaden Daniels in, this was like Alabama's defense did well. Like I thought they did really, really well in this spot. What were your takes on this one?
I was very surprised the first half. Like, wow, they were just going back and forth and back and forth. And then, like you said, then it got to the second half, and Bama ran away. And it really seemed when Daniels went out. So they were checking him for a broken jaw.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I understand. Yeah, you want to go for the concussion protocol, any kind of headshot like that, and that really seemed like the difference. He came out and it just.
Well, yeah, and there was nothing LSU's offense could really do because with Garrett Nussmeier, yeah, he can pass the ball, but you try and bring him in the middle of a game.
Yeah,
the chemistry is off a little bit. Malik Neighbors not great at like catching contested passes, and you don't have that same. Alabama could basically either they could bring pressure, or they could just sit back and probably get pressure with their down 4, because of course LSU did have some guys banged up on that offensive line. There were different ways to attack Nussmeier than there is to attack Jaden Daniels. If you get too aggressive, Daniels can break off a 40-yard run on you. Nussmeier ain't going to do that.
No,
that's not an issue. So you could just sit back in coverage and not worry about things. So it was interesting. You know, when Jaden Daniels went out, they were already down 2 touchdowns at that point. And the reason behind it was, the turnover. And before this game, so my pops was at the game and he was texting me. And when LSU went up 28-21, he said, I would onside kick every single time from here on because we cannot stop them. And I said, look, here's the rankings for turnover margin, right? For giveaways per game. LSU was number 4 in the country in giveaways per game. They gave it away 0.63 times per game. So less than one turnover given away per game. And I said, your defense is pretty good. Like, I'd probably give it a couple more drives and just see if regression hits, because at some point they are going to turn the ball over. Why not think it's going to happen on the road in a crazy buzzsaw environment like this? Because Tuscaloosa was wild last night.
Yes.
And then, of course, pass gets batted. Dallas Turner interception, all that. Like, it changed the game. It completely flipped things because it put Alabama in a spot where LSU was going to have to get a stop, and they couldn't get stops.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a wild game. I was just, what were you most impressed with in this? What was maybe Jalen Milroe what you were most impressed with, or was it something else?
He did look a lot different in this game. He did. I was like, what is this the same guy from before? Like, totally different. But it always seems like that with Alabama. Primetime game, they are always so up on a primetime game. It's like you never, again, a Mississippi State fan, it was always like, oh, Mississippi State's doing really good. We're going to play Alabama on the Saturday 7:00 game, at Tuscaloosa. It's like, oh, crap. Like, you can't.
Couldn't we get a nooner? Like,
yeah, just get one that goes flies under the radar and you can sneak up on them. But yeah, I mean, with him rushing the ball, throwing, I was way more impressed in this game.
It was a different game. They have done something the past 3 games where they're running Jace McClellan a lot in the first half, and he's kind of the shiftier, run side to side guy, right? He can get from sideline to sideline pretty quick. In the second half, they bring in Roydale Williams. And this dude he's a bruiser, but he's also really quick too. Like, he's kind of fidgety, he twitches a little bit. Roydale in this game, you didn't need him much in the second half, but 6 carries for 56 yards and 1 touchdown. He was a battering ram in that second half. Like, he was absolutely awesome. 9.3 yards per rush. Jace McClellan ran 14 times, 63 yards for 1 touchdown, 4.5 yards. The running game appears to be working. Like, the offensive line has gotten fixed for Alabama. Now, granted, this is an LSU defense that, most people are going to be able to do this to this LSU defense. But I think it was promising for an Alabama team that now has Kentucky, UT Chattanooga, and Auburn left on the schedule. Getting some things right as you get into November, right?
Yeah. I was impressed with that too, with them running the ball. Like, dang, they're just running it right down their throats.
Yeah, they whipped them. They whipped them. Looking at the gameonpaper.com stuff, there were multiple shots where it looked like LSU was going to find a way to come back and win the game. The game excitement index is pretty high up there because it did flip back and forth so many times. These offensive numbers are crazy. Like, absolutely crazy. EPA per play, Alabama 97th percentile at 0.42 per play. Success rate, way up there. Yards per play, way up there. EPA per dropback, not great, but then EPA per rush for both of these teams was like, every time they ran the ball, the expected points added for the team was basically half a point. Like, which is just absolutely wild. Both defenses terrible in defensive run stuff rate. And then havoc rate, LSU 6%, Alabama 4%. Not great, but I think you got to scheme a little differently for offenses like this. So both teams did really what they had to do, and I think the difference, honestly, in the game was the turnover. You tend to agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
That also just seemed to suck the wind out of them.
Yes.
And then then Daniel goes out and it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Then it was a ball game. I mean, that was game, set, match.
Yeah.
And so it was a wild one. Cheers to the Tide. I've been bad mouthing them all year. Nothing for me to bad mouth in this one. Like, They look good. So cheers to that. We move ahead, and of course, we got to talk about this one. Bedlam, the final Big 12 iteration of Bedlam. And Oklahoma State gets the win, 27-24. I was excited. I bet on this one. I had a feeling that Oklahoma State was going to be super fired up for this. And as you see down here, Oklahoma State did have one turnover. It led to 0 points for Oklahoma. On the other side, Oklahoma, 3 turnovers that led directly to 10 points for Oklahoma State. And that was the difference in the game. It was a 3-point game, 10 points off turnovers. I mean, you can do the math. As Solid Verbal calls him, comedy legend Alan Bowman was 28 out of 42 for 334 yards passing. Ollie Gordon, not the most efficient day, only 4.2 yards per carry, but he ran the ball 33 times for 137 yards. Oklahoma State looks fantastic. And now they've got all the Big 12 newcomers standing in their way of a Big 12 title spot. Huey, what did you think about this one?
I just thought Oklahoma. Well, okay. I'm like, okay. I know we were kind of talking bad about Oklahoma State earlier this year. Like they just weren't looking really good.
They got beat 33-7 by South Alabama.
Yeah.
There's nothing good to say about that.
Yeah. It was, and I'm thinking like, okay. And then they picked it up and thinking, I think Oklahoma's just not just. This isn't it for Oklahoma. And boy, the
Red River thing changed everything for them. It changed everything for them. They started tattoos with horns down, and the fan base had basically celebrated like, oh, we're going to the playoff, or at least we're going to the Big 12 title game. It's like they thought the season was over.
Yeah.
You still had games at Kent, and I understand if you are an Oklahoma fan, you are absolutely going to overlook these games because they have had such wild success against these teams. But this is still a tough conference.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not the best conference, but you go on the road, to Lawrence and to Stillwater. That's tough places to win, man.
Oklahoma State looked like they wanted it so much more. Just the energy that they were playing with, and Oklahoma. I mean, I understand. Like they were like, okay, we're playing with this calm. We're going to play our game. We are just going to go. But they just didn't have like a fire to them. I was like, you're just not like, this is a rivalry. Just go nuts.
Yes.
And I think like it seemed like they were coming in like, we're the better team. We're going to win.
This is what I was talking about.
Yeah. And it.
Look at the expected points in this, how it drops like all the way down here. Like at the end of it, Oklahoma State was negative 0.51 expected points added. And Oklahoma by their last offensive play was negative 0.02. I mean, it was EPA per play was pretty terrible in this. Neither team great in EPA per rush. Neither team great, Oklahoma State's numbers wouldn't tell you that they should have won this game. But obviously turnovers, they matter quite a bit. So when you're looking at that, it's like, okay. You look at things like special teams, etc. Because I had bet on Oklahoma State, I was so irritated at Drake Stoops. That kid, I was so mad at that kid. He was awesome. Like he was 12 receptions, 134 yards, 1 touchdown. I was like, Stoops is going to beat him again. It's so frustrating. I thought Oklahoma played okay, but like Oklahoma State, this was perfect for them. Time of possession, 37 minutes for Oklahoma State. They just kept the ball away from them. So, any other takeaways from this one that you felt?
No, I almost gave my Heisman Award to the fan section, to the student section with the paddles and all that. I do, man.
Luganville having his decibel counter thing, and like measuring how far it was from the back of the end zone over to the stands. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
They were ready for that. Yeah, they were ready for that.
Yes. Yes, they were. 114 consecutive meetings between those two. And I can't remember what they said was number one, but regardless, that's a lot of years in a row of playing the same team. And now, you heard about them playing Taylor Swift afterwards, right? Like we are never, ever getting back together or whatever.
Oh,
It's so petty.
I missed that part.
Oh, it's so petty. I love it. I love it. Cheers to Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy's comments after the game were so awesome. Did you see his post-game press conference?
Oh, I missed that.
Okay, so let me pull up my Twitter because I retweeted it so that I could keep up with it. And I should have put it down in my notes, but I didn't want to write the whole thing out. So they asked him about, what are you going to do after a win like this when you get home, like all that, whatever. Here we go. As a matter of fact, I'll show it on the stream. Brandon Marcello. Mike Gundy says he likes to go home after games, take notes on upcoming opponents on TV, and drink Diet Coke, quote, until I get double vision, and then I'll go to bed. And after his press conference, I asked him what his favorite flavor of Diet Coke he prefers. He said, well, I love whiskey. It said Gundy says he's been drinking Loyal and True Reserve by Hochatown Distilling Company, which is the official bourbon of Oklahoma State. He said, usually when I get home, the old ladies drank it all. It's gone. He said the bottle celebrates the year of the cowboy. And then Marcelo said, hell, maybe it is. So, oh, that guy's so much fun. He's he's an original. He's definitely that. All right, we'll move ahead in the action, as the SEC network would say. And let's move over to first. Hold on. Let me tell everybody about Ticketsmarter. I got to get the ads in.
Yep.
Tickets are expensive, super expensive, and that's whether it's going to concerts or any of these like gigantic games that are coming up. Oklahoma State against whoever in the Big 12 title game, I guess Texas. That's going to be an expensive ticket. Alabama, Auburn, Ohio State, Michigan, etc. Ticketsmarter is where you need to go get your tickets. Ticketsmarter.com or the Ticketsmarter app. Use the promo code WCE10 or WCE20. I've got the hiccups. Do you hear this? Where the hell did this come from?
Yeah, I'm wondering that. I was looking up your Twitter thing. Oh, there it is. Maybe a little bit of that Gundy whiskey there.
Oh yeah. I might need some whiskey. That is crazy. Go to Ticketsmarter. Buy your tickets. WCE10, WCE20. It's going to get you $10 off an order of $100 or more, or $20 off an order of 300 or more. I have never had this happen before. This is absolutely insane.
This has to be your clips. Use these clips. Go. See?
Ooh-wee. Okay.
Because the possum, they let the possum in.
You talk for a second. I'm going to go fill up my coffee. Okay.
Oh man. All right. Let's we'll go to the next one. We'll go to the next one over here. Texas, Kansas State. So Texas 33, Kansas State 30 in overtime. I was surprised by this. I thought Texas, the way that they came out in the beginning, that they were just going to really run away with it. And they did. They looked really good. I had the game on. Of course, like I said, live here in Texas. So, yes, it's always going to be on. But very surprised Kansas State coming out in that second half. I know he's going to pull up all the stuff here in just a moment. But the big win. Somebody did bring this up. When are they going to put Arch Manning. When are they going to let him play a little bit? I know people are talking all about that, but I was surprised by that. But Kansas State just kept fighting in that game. Coming back. If we get over this hiccuping.
I'm glad I didn't start the full game breakdown.
Yeah, that'd have been bad. It was
Lord.
me fumbling through Texas and Kansas State. I thought Texas was going to run away with it in the beginning.
Oh man, that
Kansas State.
I think everybody did, right?
Yeah,
I think everybody thought that. Boy, that was wild. I've never gotten the hiccups in the middle of a show. I've been doing this for 7 years. That's wild. All right, let me pull up the stuff. All right, pull it up on the screen. Yeah, Texas 33, Kansas State 30. And whoo boy, this one got hairy for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, real hairy. It started out, it looked like Texas was going to just run away with this thing. And then in the fourth quarter, Kansas State 16 points and missed a field goal. Missed an extra point and a field goal.
Yes. I forgot about that.
Probably if they hit the extra point, they probably win the game.
Yes, that's what I was like. If they had hit that extra point, could have been all the difference.
But at the same time, like just overall on the day, like Will Howard was fantastic. Like 26 out of 42, 327, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. But he wasn't like. I found it odd that they didn't use Avery Johnson that much, right? Like because he had kind of become a pretty integral part of the offense, and he had 1 pass, and he had 1 rushing attempt for -1 yards, and this dude has been awesome. So that kind of surprised me that they didn't find a way to get him a little more involved in the offense. But man, you look at these rushing numbers for Kansas State, and this is not a recipe for them to be able to win games. 29 attempts rushing for 33 total yards. Now, sack adjusted rushing yards, they had 55, but that's still 2.1 yards per rushing attempt. Like Texas ran the ball all over them. Mm-hmm. 230 sack adjusted rushing yards here. Like they were awesome. Malik Murphy, still not fantastic, but again, you're going against a really tough Kansas State defense. Like Texas really it felt like they were trying to give the game away.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just wild to watch. And then you get to overtime. Do you blame Kleiman for going for that 4th down in overtime? Like the kicking game had already kind of been a disaster. They missed an extra point. They missed a field goal. They did hit the 1 to get to overtime. And I kind of felt like, man, if you had kicked that field goal, and granted, you got to trust your field goal kicker to be able to do that. But if you had hit that field goal in overtime and then come out and score again in the second overtime, that puts so much pressure on Malik Murphy. Like you want to talk about pressure on a kid that is making his 2nd ever start, and it's at home. But this is basically for, your Big 12 championship life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, I don't know that I blame them for going for it, because obviously you're in a hostile environment. You want to just walk it off and get the win if you can. But, ooh, man, I was rethinking that one.
Yeah, I look at it as, Texas, what are they, 7 at this point?
Yeah, 7 in the rankings.
Yeah. Is Kansas State ranked? Are they 20 something?
Yeah, they were lower 20s, I believe.
Yeah, so lower 20. Okay. So you're coming into this game, you fight your way back. Just go for it. Leave it all on the field. Just go for it. Because if it's like, well, we're going to play conservative, Texas is a really good team. Could they just take advantage of that? Going, hey, we went for it. Your fans aren't sitting there going, well, you should have went for it. Like, well, we did go for it. we went after them. That's what we did. We didn't after them. You'd be upset if we were conservative on it, and you're upset if we're, but just going for it. You just leave it on. That's what I feel like. Okay, that's what I thought. 23. Yeah. Okay. But I thought, yeah, you just go for it. You just leave it out there. Hey, you didn't get it, but dadgum, you tried.
Yeah, you sure did. I was interested in this one. Obviously, I mean, you're wanting to see what's happening. Here, we'll pull this back on the screen. It for the majority of the game, it as you said, it looked like Texas was just going to run away with this thing. At one point, play number 132, the winning percentage or winning probability for Texas was 98.4, and then I mean by play 144, it had completely flipped to where Kansas State was 65.5% that they were going to win the game, and it at the end it just goes back and forth, back and forth. So just bonkers. Absolutely bonkers.
I saw somebody was talking about like when are they going to let Arch Manning get some snaps in there?
Man, Arch Manning. If Ewers is going to be out for an extended amount of time, it might not be a bad idea because, like, I think they can beat everybody else in the Big 12 by doing that, right? Like by putting Malik Murphy out there. If Ewers gets hurt again, like going into the playoff or something, you're going to need somebody that can throw the ball better because Murphy, it's not even decision making. It's like the accuracy issues are just, there's just issues. Their remaining schedule here: TCU, Iowa State, Texas Tech. You should be. You could put Murphy out there for the rest of those and just run to a win. That offensive line and their defensive line are dominant enough that you're going to win out, regardless, I think. But at the same time, like when you're not going to blow the red shirt on Arch right now, and it shouldn't matter anyway because if Arch is as good as advertised, then he's only going to be there for a few years anyway. So I don't know. I would play him just to make sure you got depth, but I wouldn't be too concerned with it right now. Let's see. We are 42 minutes in. Let's knock out the rest of these games right quick. We'll move back over to the SEC. Ole Miss 38, Texas A&M 35, and brother, Jimbo 4 losses now. Let's start with that. Okay, let's not do the game just yet. Let's talk about the narratives surrounding it. Jimbo's record is putrid as the coach at Texas A&M. His buyout is still in the $70+ million range, 75 or some odd number. Now their starting quarterback has gone down, but this is another road loss, and you can say like another loss to Ole Miss. Like we should be better than Ole Miss, but Ole Miss is a top 10 team. So, Lane Kiffin always has something drawn up for this because he does not like Jimbo Fisher. If you were Texas A&M, and those guys have got the money to do this if they want to, would you go ahead and fire Jimbo Fisher at the end of this season? Or would you wait another year, let that buyout drop into the 60s, and then figure out what to do with it? Or do you just chalk it up to, we had to play a backup quarterback who was actually pretty good in the game, but it seemed like this team just kind of threw up all over themselves late in this ball game. What would you do on this situation?
I just feel this really weird thing about Jimbo where I said this before. When your employer doesn't like you and he's like, hey, you still want me to show up every day and do a really good job, or if it's like, hey, I can go through the motions and I'm still going to get paid no matter what. But I know A&M, they want to be playing for SEC West titles. They keep talking about, they were talking about that number 1 recruiting class they got several years ago. And it's not paying off. So I understand that they want to start winning. They want, yes. So I could see like they go ahead and fire him or buy him out, and let's bring on the next guy. Let's get those title chances that they want every year. But I don't see that ever happening. But
that's the thing, right? It's like, okay, like the crazy part. So one, if you were to fire him like right now, Who's your interim coach?
Yeah.
Like, is it DJ Durkin, who is the guy that got fired as the head coach at Maryland because of the working conditions for the players, or is it Bobby Petrino, who what happened with him at Arkansas and whatnot? And same thing at Louisville. I mean, the players just completely quit on him in Louisville. I mean, the offensive line coach is Steve Adazio. Like, that guy got fired by Boston College, was at Colorado State for 2 years, and the situation at Colorado State was so bad that he got fired after 2 years. I mean, I don't know what they would do. Like, I think you would have to clean house, but like, would you even want one of those guys as your interim head coach?
Yeah,
and
it's
probably not, right?
Yeah, you got this overall terrible situation of like, what are we going to do? Yeah, just wait to the end of the season, just get rid of them. But then you're going to suck. Well, you're most likely you're not going to. I'm not going to say suck, but maybe you just won't be as good until you get that next coach and his staff and his type of players and whomever. So it's do we go ahead and start that now? Do we wait at least one more year, knowing that
yeah, that's the question, right? Like, the other part of this is, man, like you brought in DJ Durkin from Ole Miss a couple of years ago, and if you didn't think that Lane was going to have something drawn up for him,
oh yeah,
I mean, great. Look at this average yards per completion, 16.1. Trey Harris had 11 receptions for 213 yards. Like, Quinshad Judkins did what he usually does, 3 touchdowns on the ground. He had 102 yards rushing on 23 carries. Like, they averaged 7.8 yards per play against that Texas A&M defense. They really probably should have put up more points than they did.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm Texas A&M, I have no idea what I do here. But the question really is, like, who do you go and hire? And if you're going to pay $70 some odd million to fire Jimbo Fisher, do you go get Mike Elko, who was the defensive coordinator there that was so successful? And he's, of course, doing really big things at Duke right now. But, like, is he doing big enough stuff at Duke for you to pay him $9 to $10 million a year? Because that's kind of the going rate for your next coach. And if you're going to pay this other guy out 70 some odd million, then you got to give like a huge contract to the next guy. Like, are you sold enough on Elko or whoever? I don't know. I think I might would keep him around for one more year. But, like, at some point you're going to have to rip the Band-Aid off.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was terrible. Max Johnson was not terrible in this game. He was 31 out of 42 passing, 305 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 8 rushing attempts for 4 yards, right? So A&M does this all the time. They are talented enough to stay in the game and to make you really sweat, but they hadn't been able to get the wins, and that's got to be frustrating.
I always find they are a super talented team. Always get really tough, but it's like it just doesn't get the big win.
I mean, this was a Jimbo special. Like, one time of possession by like 11 minutes. Like, there was a lot that they had going for them in this game. Like, 5 of 11 on third down, had 30 first downs in the game. But the typical stuff, right? 9 penalties for 72 yards.
And I'll say, with the penalty, I was going to nominate for Heisman, the offensive lineman Heisman, Micah Pettis, for taking a shot to the nuts right there and still playing. But then he kind of got brushed, kind of got thrown around a little bit.
Yeah. That was rough.
I was like, whoa.
Well, you want to talk about losing your composure.
Oh,
I mean, gosh, I can't. He took so the kid from A&M, like, threw a nut shot, like, it did not a nut shot, but like a punch. Yeah. And then got up and started swinging.
Yes. And it wasn't even like there's players around you. You were by yourself near the quarterback where people are looking.
Yes.
And it's like,
Oh, it was wild.
Whoa.
So who knows? Like who you got to keep your composure. The back and forth here, like Ole Miss looked like they were going to win for the majority of the game. And then you get down towards the end and it's like, oh, okay, like A&M's okay. Something, and then of course it jumps right back up. It is what it is. Just wild.
And I will say, so the guy who blocked the kick at the end, that was great. That was great. But the commentators got me. We were talking to him before the game. No, you weren't. How did you know that you were specifically going to talk to this guy who's going to do this crazy play at the end? And I love him. We were talking to him before the game. Really? You were talking to the third in line, like kicker who got brought in on some play and it did some phenomenal thing. You knew to talk to him before the game?
Nope.
But I thought that was fun. That was a great block. That was, got in there and woo.
Did it up. Yeah.
But when they said that we talked to him before the game, no, you didn't.
Quit lying. Quit lying.
Specifically, the one guy, the game-saving play, we talked to him specifically.
Well, and hey, maybe they did.
Maybe they did, but
odds are probably not.
Yeah, and it's like this guy.
Nah. I don't buy it. Let's move on to the last game of the day, and then we'll try and run through. I know French wanted us to talk about New Mexico State. Douglas wanted to talk about Bo Nix a little bit. We'll hit on some of those. Washington 52, USC 42. And the second quarter is where this thing went sideways for USC. Total yardage, Washington 572, USC 515. Where do we stand on the star quarterback taking a third loss on the season and jumping up into the stands to violently cry on his mother? Because Robert Griffin III was very much man, I love the emotion, all this kind of stuff. And then you see it and it's like, I don't know that I want my quarterback acting like that after we lose a game. I think I want my quarterback to go back into the, back to the drawing board and we got to get this win and get fired up, get mad about I don't want him crying. Right? Because didn't he do this early? He didn't do this where he's just violently crying, but the body language on this team's been bad all year. You and I have talked about it.
Yeah. I
don't know what to make of this Caleb Williams stuff. Did that look like maybe his last game? Or I don't tell me your thoughts on that whole thing.
Well, I mean, I can say really emotional game. You didn't get the win. It's man, I'm not going to go out the champ that I thought. And I can say that. I don't get my shot to play for a Pac-12 championship. I don't get to play for because that's how you want. I want to win the conference title. I want to win the Heisman. I want to win the national title, and I go out on top. Well, then you lose it, so you can be upset. Also, I understand with an emotional game, and you're really fired up. Sometimes the only way that people can come down for it is they just burst into tears. And I've met people that's the only way they can emotionally come down is they just cry their eyes out. And then it's oh, okay, just because it's just coming down. But yeah, I think, and I can see this. I mean, Tebow did the same thing.
Yeah.
His last game that Colin, you Alabama fans just rode his rear end on that.
We lit him up.
It was I was oh.
But see, that's, I mean, what are the comparisons? This is so not what you are used to seeing.
Yeah, but I would say like Tebow when he lost during the season, he came back saying, "We're going to play harder. We're going to do this." But he was upset at like the conference. This was a championship game. It
Right.
wasn't a regular season game. But
And in this situation, I mean, it's USC's second Pac-12 loss.
yeah,
But it's not like they're completely out of it. Like I don't know. They're probably not going to win. I mean, they may have like 5 losses this year. It might get bad. Pulling up their schedule right now. Yeah, they got Oregon and UCLA left. Like, that Utah win or that Utah loss stings. And lost both of those at home.
Yeah, at home, and then they got.
But here's the thing:
UCLA
like
at home.
They're 5-2.
Yeah,
in the conference. So, like, legitimately, all you have to do is beat Oregon this week, which is, I mean, it's a late game and it's in Austin, but it's not like you're out of it. So, why? And I get where you're coming from with, like you give everything you got and just emotionally coming down, like that's the only thing that you can do. But, like, it's the body language and just everything around this team has been so off this year. Cheers to Washington. Looked fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael Penix, 22 out of 30, only had to throw the ball 30 times in this game. 256 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Dylan Johnson, of course, 26 carries, 256 yards, 4 touchdowns. The receiving core for Washington is awesome. The offensive line looks fantastic. Their defense, like, and go ahead with the offensive line again. I know you're wanting to jump in on that, right?
Oh yeah, no, I was Troy and then Roger Rosengarter, but they were running to the left. He got all his a lot of his touchdowns. They were going just manhandling them. I'm like, and USC had a pretty good defensive line and getting a good push on them. And
it's the talent is there for USC.
Right? USC can always get really good talent.
It's just amazing that this defense is so bad. I mean, it's week after week, and I get it, right? Because they're going up against Kalen DeBoer, who is just an offensive genius, I think. And you got Michael Penix, who is top 5 quarterback in the country. Like he might be number 1 or 2, but like certainly top 5. And I get that you're going to give up yards to an offense like that, but like, it's week after week with. I mean, Cal scored 49 on them last week. Probably should have beat them, and it just happens all the time. And maybe that is it for Caleb Williams, where like I have done everything that I can possibly do. And the one mistake where this game flipped is he, turned the ball over. Did you see that stat where he's got the most fumbles? In his career of any active player.
Like 30 fumbles. Like
30 fumbles.
And like 7 lost. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like,
he carries the thing around like so my dad always taught me you don't hold the football like you hold a loaf of bread. Like you better cradle that thing and make sure you got it tight in there. But he just carries that thing around just, like I'm holding this cup here. Like he's just running around and it's going to pop out like that. And only lost 7. So that's kind of surprising. But it is what it is. He had 2 fumbles, lost one of them. It led to 7 points. Now, granted, USC scored points off of a Washington turnover as well, but Washington put up 28 in the second quarter.
Yeah.
And that was it because they got that lead, and then that's what, like, I guess jump-started them for the rest of the ball game. So 10-0 run in the fourth for Washington and held USC scoreless. That's a pretty big deal. Pretty big deal.
Funny, dude. We talking about like lost fumbles. like the offensive line, like the only time that you really get to touch the ball is with a fumble. And what is it? It's usually like you missed your block and you're looking at your quarterback getting sacked, and then the ball kind of rolls to you. You're like, oh, I get the ball. And it's like you did something, you failed at your job on this play, but at least you helped us and got the ball.
At least you got the ball. At least you got the ball.
And you were just standing there looking.
You ready to rapid fire some of this?
Oh yeah.
So we'll take another 10 or 15 minutes here and try and knock this out. All right, jumping into the SEC scoreboard here, and we're already over an hour because of course we are. SEC Georgia 30-21 over Missouri. This one was tighter than I thought it would be.
Yeah,
and I wanted to bet Missouri before this game, but like there was just something about the way that Georgia was acting all week long about it. Parker called it like the bless their hearts, like they're really good kind of thing. And I was terrified of it. So I stayed off of it. But, you know, is Missouri really good, or is it just Georgia has these things every now and then that just, you know, they'll probably come out and beat Ole Miss by like 4 touchdowns next week.
Yeah.
So did you get any eyes on this one?
I watched a little bit of it. Now I was pretty impressed watching Missouri stick with it, fighting with them, but it did look like Georgia's like, hey, we're not going to mess around in this game.
Third quarter, it certainly looked like they were just done. Like they were, all right, we're about to put our foot down and that's it. So let's talk about Arkansas and Florida. It's amazing. You fired Dan Enos, and all of a sudden your offense looks 1,000 times better, and your team looks happier and more willing to compete. This team put 39 on the board in the Swamp, and they put 3 on the board at home against Mississippi State 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It is a different world week to week in college football, my friend. It's so goofy. KJ Jefferson's awesome. And turns out when you have Rocket Sanders healthy, yeah, you can do like big things. He had 18 carries for 103 yards. Arkansas was good. First time they've ever won in the Swamp.
Really?
Yeah, had no idea. No idea. So Florida is still 1 win away from bowl eligibility. So something to keep an eye on. Jacksonville State and South Carolina. South Carolina won by 10. They scored 10 points in the fourth. That was the difference in the game. The third downs that Jacksonville State was converting were some of the most ridiculous, and I should have expected this from Rich Rod, but this was a bonkers ball game. Auburn 31-15 on Vanderbilt. Nothing really to take away from that. Jarquez Hunter had 19 carries for 183 yards against Vanderbilt. 19 for 183. I mean, that's ridiculous. Yeah, just crazy. And then, you know, Kentucky and your boys, 24-3 on Mississippi State. Is State going to be looking for a new coach?
Yeah, we need to.
I think he's still got that interim contract. So I don't think it's not like it's going to cost some crazy buyout. Like,
I feel bad for Will Rogers. Like, you had all these stats coming in.
Yeah. Drew jumped in on the chat. He said, "What's up with the Dogs the past 2 weeks? They're killing my parlays." Do you mean Mississippi State? I'm gonna assume he means Mississippi State. That team, the Q word, might be in play here. So, what does State have left?
A&M, Southern Miss, and Ole Miss.
At A&M, Southern Miss, they'll be able to get that one.
Yeah.
And then Ole Miss. Ooh. You needed one of these last 2 games.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get it done.
Yeah. So maybe A&M would just, maybe A&M just like, again, screwy with, yes, like that's what I'm hoping for. I'm not even looking forward to the Egg Bowl. I'm just going to watch it and just turn my phone off so all the deadgum Ole Miss fans aren't texting and calling me. I mean, granted, I am married to one, but at least she understands.
I was about to say, like, Like,
We have an
you can't
agreement.
escape it.
Me and my wife have an agreement. You can gloat for that evening from the end of the game until you go to bed. You can get whatever you want. After that, you have to drop it. And we've
That's a
had
pretty
that.
good rule.
Yeah, and we've had that for years. But she doesn't really care about the game. She can't tell you two people on the team. She's like,
Well, those are
whatever.
the worst.
Yeah. And I also don't have a problem like this year. Ole Miss is the better team. And if Ole Miss comes in there and just beats them, that's fine. Okay, you won. But if it turns into this, like, oh, you were in the game and you like fumbled it away you lost the game. That's my rant. That's another one of my rants there.
I'm excited for Thanksgiving, but not as excited as I would have been.
Yeah.
Had State been willing to put up a fight, but we'll see. We shall see. Move to the Big Ten. Ohio State 35-16 over Rutgers, and that game was way closer than that.
Yeah.
This was, Rutgers was up 9-7 at the half, and I got to tell you, I've got questions about Greg Schiano and this Rutgers team, as to what they were doing here, because you're going to have to score touchdowns to beat Ohio State. And they got the ball inside the 10, I think inside the 5, 3 different times in that second quarter, and kicked the field goals. Why would you not go for, but you need touchdowns? Are you going to get that close again? Like multiple times? Like, I don't know. That was a weird one. Yeah. Michigan, Purdue. You bet Michigan. I'm sorry. That cover by Purdue late was whatever. This Michigan team is absurd. Did you get any eyes on that one?
I think I had it on, and it was just watching. It's like, jeez, like it's like that. Okay, we're gonna get the lead, or we're gonna put the second and third team guys in and get some snaps in. Like it hits the point in the fourth quarter. They are just totally relaxed, not worried whatsoever. And it's just seeing them. It's like, we're showing up, we're putting in the work early, and then we're, let our other guys go in there and play.
To this day, Michigan has not had a team get a first and goal against them. Like we're moving into week 11 of the season, and nobody has had first and goal against this team. So they if they've scored from like further out, right? So that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. Douglas jumped in the chat. I have a feeling Oregon's going to win the last Pac-12 title. I would agree with that. Like Washington's undefeated, and Washington already beat them, but like Oregon's a better team. You put those two on a neutral, and so long as they don't go over 3 on third or on fourth down and turn the ball over. Yeah. That team's set up for a big entrance into the Big Ten. Like they are recruiting like gangbusters right now. They made a fantastic hire with Dan Lanning. Holy crap, did they make a good hire? Whew. Penn State 51, Maryland 15. Penn State scored 27 points in the fourth quarter. James Franklin does this all the time against Maryland. There was so much steam on Maryland bets coming in earlier this week, and I could not understand it to say, I bet Penn State at 10.5. I bet him at 10, and then the line dropped all the way down to 8, and I bet Penn State again at 8. And I don't know what the story is behind this. The only time Maryland has beaten Penn State under James Franklin was the COVID season. And James Franklin was the offensive coordinator for Ralph Friedgen at Maryland before he took the Vanderbilt job. And I think that Franklin wanted the Maryland job, but they didn't offer it to him. And now that he's at Penn State, he just enjoys beating their brains in every time they play. Like that's the only thing I can figure out. Like they destroy this team, always cover the spread. Like it's brutal. Absolutely brutal. Hey, Penn State has a passing game. Like they didn't show it against Ohio State, but they've been working on that the last couple weeks. They've been throwing the ball down the field, and yeah, I think it's going to be a fun game next weekend.
Oh yeah,
fun game. Penn State, Michigan is going to be a lot of fun. So, do you feel anything about this one? Like Talia Tagovailoa, just like they took him out of the ball game late. They were like, we are not going to get him bashed.
yeah. Penn State. Yeah, watching that like, ooh, they're just steamrolling there.
Yeah. Wisconsin lost to Indiana, which means they are not going to be winning the Big Ten West. So, Indiana. I mean, first Big Ten win of the year. Like, what in the world? They fired Walt Bell, their offensive coordinator, and all of a sudden they can like do things. Like they're like competitive against Penn State, and they beat Wisconsin. Like, what the hell is this? I mean, this is wild. Nebraska 17, Michigan State 20. So Michigan State gets their first Big Ten win. Nebraska has to win one more game to get to a bowl game, and they have got Maryland this week, at Wisconsin, or Iowa. They could win all three of those games.
Mm-hmm.
They have 9 starters down on offense right now.
Jeez.
So, like, they could also lose all three of those.
Yep.
I think you really needed to win that game against Michigan State. But I mean, who knows? I'll probably bet on them against Maryland this week. So we'll see. Illinois. Hey, Brett Bielema. That's what I'm talking about. Did you see the end of this ball game against Minnesota?
That one.
27-26. John Paddock comes in. He was the transfer from Ball State, I think. Luke Altmaier has been the quarterback basically all season. John Paddock was the starter at Ball State and transferred to Illinois. Came in after Luke Altmaier got rocked and had to go out of the ball game. They were down by 2 points, and Paddock drove them down the field 3 for 3 for 8. I want to see the box score. But drove them down the field, and they kicked the game-winning field goal. Like, Paddock was awesome. There we go, 3 for 85 yards. He had one touchdown. Like, late in that game. I mean, he was he was awesome. And so, yeah, impressive stuff. So, where did Paddock play? Was it Ball State? Come on. I can't see it. Career stats. There we go. See all. Yeah, Ball State. He was there for 4 years. So in this year, rocking and rolling. Totally fine being a backup. Cheers to that guy. Iowa and Northwestern 10-7 in Wrigley. Did you see that this was the 6th highest scoring game in Wrigley this season? And the other ones were, of course, all baseball games. Mays Ray jumped it. It was a last-minute touchdown, not a field goal. I'm sorry. Yes, last second touchdown for Illinois. Fantastic. So they bring in Johnny Watkins in that second half for Illinois, and it changed the entire ball game. Minnesota could do nothing against them after that. Iowa and Northwestern was as brutal as you would possibly expect it to be. Like, the leading passer in this game was Brendan Sullivan. The quarterback had 81 yards passing.
Wow.
We had friends that were there. I had friends that were at this game. It is brutal. Like, how do you sit through this? Like, I don't even know how you could. I'm speechless. I got nothing to say about this. It's so disgusting. I'm
stuck with it too. Like, what do you?
It's so gross. Like, God,
6th highest scoring game. That's
yeah. Iowa is 7-2. They are 4-2 in the Big Ten, and they have the tiebreaker over Wisconsin. So Iowa is probably going to win the Big Ten West. So the Big Ten championship game that Fox just sold for like all this money in the offseason, yeah, that's going to be brutal. Whether it's Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, whoever, They are going to destroy Iowa in that championship game. Let's do the Pac-12 right quick because Douglas is a Duck fan and wants us to talk about it. Oregon played with their food a little bit with Cal early, and then did what you expect, I guess. Like 63-19. That was disgusting too. Bo Nix, like, he's got a legit chance at the Heisman. 386, 4 TDs, 1 interception in this one. Like, Tez Johnson was awesome. 180 receiving yards on 12 receptions, 2 touchdowns. Let's talk about Boulder right quick. Oregon State 26-19 over Colorado, and Colorado had to score 2 late touchdowns to get that cover. Thoughts? What'd you feel about this?
So the end of the first half, throwing the ball from your own end zone 3 times, and then a short punt with the penalty. What do you, I'm like, why? Maybe the first pass, we're trying to catch him off guard, but do a little screen, catch him off guard. Why throw it again?
You got me. Here's what I don't get. The offensive coordinator, Sean Lewis, was demoted before this game, which is wild to me because the only successful thing that this team has going for it was the veer and shoot that Sean Lewis runs, right? What Sean Lewis did at Kent State was incredible considering the circumstances. Kent State is not a place where you can win, and he was able to win pretty consistently. And yeah, he took this job because it's going to get him in the conversation for bigger jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But for them to demote him was insane. So Pat Shurmur, the former NFL offensive coordinator, former NFL head coach, came in as the offensive coordinator here. And I think they had 66 total yards in that first half. Just brutal.
They couldn't do anything.
They got going in the second half, but I mean, my gosh, the way that they were playing with tempo in that second half, it kind of felt like they were like maybe going back to Sean Lewis. Like I wasn't quite sure what they were doing there, but regardless, this was interesting. Did you see the end of the game for this one?
No, I did. It was getting late. I missed the end of it.
I was watching this as I went to bed, and I could not figure out what Dion was doing. Like it looked like he didn't know the rules again. Like why he wouldn't onside kick when they scored that touchdown late made like 0 sense because Oregon State had scored on like 4 straight drives. Like your defense was not getting a stop. So why, and they called a timeout with like 2 seconds left. I don't know. It was weird. And this team is just a wreck at this point. So I got to tell you, when they started out 3-0, I never would have imagined that under 4.5 ticket that I had from early in the summer would still have a chance. But their schedule remaining, let's see, they are 4-5 right now. They got Arizona, they got to go to the Palouse, and they got to go to Utah. I don't think they're beating Arizona. I don't think they're beating Utah. And man, I'd feel a lot better about that Washington State game if it was at home. But you got to go to the Palouse. Like, that ain't good. Whew, that's rough. Utah and Arizona State, 55-3. Did you see any of this?
I missed that one.
So
Jeez.
There was a late hit in this game against one of the Utah players. And I think that Utah would have taken their foot off the gas if it hadn't been for that late hit, and I think Whittingham told him run it up because they put up 21 in the fourth quarter. They did whatever they wanted to against Arizona State. Like Arizona State had been putting up fights against basically everybody, and this was rough. 27-10, Arizona gets the win over UCLA. Once again, UCLA terrible on the road. This Arizona team, your Mississippi State Bulldogs beat Arizona.
They did.
And this team, they might be the second best team in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
They are ridiculous. They just keep winning. And the numbers don't say that they should be, but they just keep doing it. Washington State lost again 10-7 to Stanford, and that one was at home. Yikes. I got nothing. I got nothing. Cam Ward, I don't know what happened. I'm just blah. Drew jumped in. Always a good show live or otherwise. Get a lot of info from Gary. Well, I appreciate that. Douglas said, love your work, guys. Appreciate that. And he said, Drew said he's looking forward to the Maction breakdown this week. Got a couple good thoughts on spreads and over-unders. I have not been good in Maction. But I'm going to tell you, if you fade me, you're probably doing really well in Maction. Because that conference is a disaster. They are just all over the place. What else do we want to hit on? Do we want to hit ACC, Big 12? We'll do ACC right quick, and then we'll call it a day because it's an hour 20 already. Boston College got to bowl eligibility. Duke, with their third-string quarterback, beat Wake Forest on Thursday night. Florida State just kind of showed up, did what they had to do to get a win over Pitt, who's not very good. Virginia Tech, I thought that they were improving, but they got run all over. The Garindo kid, 11 carries for 146 yards and 3 touchdowns. Those Virginia Tech kids did not want to tackle that guy. I don't know if you saw some of those runs. They were – it looked like some of those defenders were running away from that guy. He looks like a bowling ball running down the field. It's crazy. Just wild. Just wild. Notre Dame, Clemson. Did you have a thought on that game? I mean, we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but whew.
Clemson is still a good team, and I mean, like I said, Clemson's still a good team, national title. So they're going to play, but no, I don't. Yeah, Notre Dame, geez, what?
It's about what you expected from Notre Dame. At some point, it was going to fall apart again.
Yeah.
And it did. So, French jumped in. I'm still here. I've been enjoying watching your clips all season. Glad I caught you live finally. He said, love your show. Have been posting YouTube links to New Mexico State's fan forum. I am. All right. Real quick. North Carolina destroyed Campbell. Of course they did. Georgia Tech destroyed Virginia. Virginia had been playing better. You realize that if Georgia Tech had gotten that win over Louisville in week 1, they would be in second place in the ACC right now. The team that lost at home to Bowling Green would be in second place in the ACC.
Jeez.
Just wild. Miami, Tyler Van Dyke does not look right. 3 interceptions at NC State, and somehow this putrid crap NC State team is now 6-3. I got no idea. Right quick, let's hit on CUSA for old French over here. Okay. Sam Houston got their first win of the season over Kennesaw State. That's good. Took 10 fourth quarter points for them to win by 3, but regardless, Liberty just destroying everybody in Conference USA, but their schedule is a complete joke. So the odds of them getting a New Year's 6 invite, slim to none. Slim to none, because it is what it is. So Western Kentucky gets the win over UTEP, which, man, if they had lost that one, UTEP, I think they're going to fire their coach because now they can't make a bowl. But yikes. And finally, New Mexico State 13-7 over Middle Tennessee. Puts them at 7-3 now, and New Mexico State might play for the Conference USA title. They are 5-1 in the conference, and Huey, I don't know that you and I have talked a lot about New Mexico State on these recap shows. I love Jerry Kill. Love Jerry Kill. He is so much fun. A former Minnesota coach. He came in and completely changed over this team. Their personality, their culture, just everything with them. They are so good. And they're so much fun to watch. This Diego Pavia kid, the quarterback, is just so much fun to watch. I mean, I don't even know. So he took the Eli Stowers kid, right, who was a quarterback at Texas A&M, brought him in as, a backup quarterback, had to find a way to get him on the field because he's so athletic. He had 6 receptions for 83 yards in this game. So you just find a way to get these kids on the field somehow. That team looks like they have so much fun. Defense have been playing lights out. Like New Mexico State's, this is a fun football team to watch. They let's see what their schedule is remaining, because they got 3 games left, I believe. Yeah, at Western Kentucky, at Auburn, and against Jacksonville State. So there's a chance they could lose out. But man, they've won 5 straight games. Should have won that game at Hawaii. The UMass game to start the season was just whatever. Like, I still don't know what happened there. But this team, they're a lot of fun to watch. Like, they're not going to be able to beat Auburn. Could they go in and beat Western Kentucky? Yeah. Let's see. Drew said package was hard to corral. Watched him here in Albuquerque during his high school games. Pavia is what he's talking about. Yeah, he was a JUCO national champion quarterback and goes to New Mexico State and just like this kid was number 1 in QBR over the last 6 weeks of last season in the country. Like not for independence, not whatever. He was number 1 in QBR in the country over the last 6 weeks last year. So yeah, I mean, they win tight games. They go into games expecting to win, even on the road. I don't know. Like, this is a fun team. I love New Mexico State. Absolutely love them. That coaching staff is a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Was there anybody else you want to talk about?
Fresno State.
Fresno getting it done.
8-1. 37-30 over Boise. So 8-1.
Let's talk about the Mountain West Conference right quick. We're going to go an hour 30. That's absurd. Wyoming over Colorado State the other night. This Wyoming stuff is the most irritating because there's no predictive numbers that would tell you that Wyoming should be 6-3 right now. But teams have like missed field goals against them and turned the ball over in like the most ridiculous ways. Colorado State was driving with like 6 minutes left in this game, and they snap the ball and it bounces like off the quarterback's face mask or something, and they pick it up and return it, and they get no points out of it. They missed a field goal, but like you took another 3 minutes off the clock. I mean, it just, I don't know. Air Force still undefeated in Mountain West Conference play, but Air Force has still got, look, their schedule remaining at Hawaii, but then, brother, you got to deal with UNLV, who is really good, and at Boise to close out. So we'll see if Air Force can get there. But they had 6 turnovers in that game against Army. Like that Bryson Daly that you were talking about, 36 carries for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns. Whew. Lord have mercy. Hawaii got to 3 wins on the season. I have a regular season win total of under 3.5 on Hawaii that pays out plus 105. Hawaii's remaining schedule. They've got, let's see, Air Force, at Wyoming, and Colorado State. I need them to lose out. So we'll see what happens. we will see what happens. UNLV. So their starting quarterback has been out for weeks at this point. This Jaden Mayava, I guess, has been really good. And they just boat raced New Mexico. So 7-2 on the season so far for Barry Odom. Barry Odom might get another job. He might get like a big boy job again. You know, he was at Missouri, and then he was the defense coordinator for Arkansas. Takes his UNLV job and gets them to their first bowl game since 2013. So they look awesome. San Diego State lost in overtime to Utah State. And then, Fresno. Mikey Keene, brother. Mikey Keene. How excited are you about Fresno?
Oh, I love it. Love it. Seeing them win. They are that team. It's like, just keep trucking right along.
Tedford. Tedford is such a good coach, man. Oh, what a crazy fun team. Like it doesn't matter that they had like very little returning production or anything this year. It was just, hey, we're fun. Like we're going to go out and
they're playing really well.
Yes. The Sherrod kid, 21 carries, 132 yards against Boise. Andy Avalos got some, he got some things he got to answer. 5 losses on the season for Boise now. What do you even do there? Right? Like, because they're 3-2 in the Mountain West. It's not like they're awful, but like they have lost some crazy games in really weird ways. The Colorado State loss where they gave up 21 points in the last 4 minutes of the ball game to lose that one. They were up 30-10 with 4:07 left in the game. They lose to Memphis, like got a field goal blocked in return for a touchdown. I don't know. But I do know this, like Fresno, so long as Jeff Tedford is there, it don't matter who the offensive coordinator is. It doesn't matter because remember, they lost their offensive coordinator to Missouri before the season. Mm-hmm. And you see how well that Missouri offense is doing now that they got Kirby Wilson. Whew. I don't know, man. I don't know. I can't wait to watch it. Like if we get Fresno Air Force for the Mountain West title,
that's gonna be great.
Oh, all-time uniform game. That'll be so much fun. Give me the colored shirts, right? Give me the blue for Air Force. Give me the red for Fresno. That's what I want. Yay. Anything else?
No.
I think we can get out of here. An hour and a half is more than enough.
Yep.
So tell everybody where they can find you, my friend.
Strong and Healthy Rehab on all socials. So Instagram, TikTok, and here on the YouTube.
All right, y'all know where to find me. Subscribe to this channel if you've not already. Of course, let the possum play, of course. Give me on Twitter at Winning Cures. Give me Instagram and TikTok at GaryWCE. Support the show. You can be a member on YouTube, or if you would like, you can also go to buymeacoffee.com/GaryWCE. Go to Ticket Smarter. Use the promo code. It's not a one-time thing. WCE10 will get you $10 off an order of $100 or more. WCE20 will get you $20 off an order of $300 or more. And of course, we've already had several people use that. I had a guy that used the WCE20 code by buying like a bunch of Sugar Bowl tickets, like the playoff semifinals. So knock that out. We had somebody in Vancouver buy hockey tickets using the WCE10 code. So go ahead and use this thing up. You can use it on anything: hockey, football, tickets to concerts, whatever. You want to go see Taylor Swift next year? That's the way to do it. All right. With that said, let's get out of here. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. God bless college football, and hopefully all of your tickets cash this week.
Thanks for listening to Winning Cures Everything. Make sure and follow me on Twitter at GaryWCE. If you want to toss in a question, you can email me, Gary@winningcureseverything.com. Make sure and hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.